Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. A couple quick updates. At 12 noon, we'll have Dr. Michael Fine for his daily update. The former director of health will be talking about what's going on in Rhode Island's nursing homes. Nearly 80% of the deaths in Rhode Island are tied to nursing homes. Secondly, Governor Raimondo will have her briefing at 1 o'clock. She's finally reversed her policy. She will allow reporters to ask questions and for the public to hear it. This is a change over the last 6 weeks, where she was one of only 2 governors in the country that refused to allow the public to hear questions or hear follow-up questions. So maybe a little democracy here on May 11th. Let's go to UMASS Lowell. Professor Scott Latham. Professor, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Josh. I'm thrilled to be here. It's always a great opportunity to get out of the ivory tower.
You're here to talk about retail. You're an expert in this area. We've seen in the last week J. Crew, Neiman Marcus, and expected this upcoming week to see JCPenney all file for bankruptcy. Where are we in the world of retail?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. It's a great question. The first thing I would put on as a disclaimer that anyone says they know is kidding themselves, and that includes me. I can provide some guidance. I would also say, if you look at retail as a sector, the sector as a whole does about $4 trillion a year across the U.S. And still the vast majority of that is brick and mortar, about 3 to 3.3 trillion of that, and then the remainder is about 700 billion done online. So I would not write out retail just yet, because what's happening with these bankruptcies is you're seeing an enormous amount of flow of capital. You have investors in J. Crew and Neiman Marcus, and they're trying to remove their capital out of these companies. They're not going to be able to. They're probably given pennies on the dollar right now. And so what will ultimately happen going into Chapter 11 is there'll be a restructuring plan, and they will try to do it in a way that will throw these companies a lifeline. So I'm a little different than other folks that look at retail. I've covered the retail sector in the dot-com recession, the Great Recession, and now the COVID recession. And in each of those instances, every time, that's it, death of retail apocalypse. And I'm not ready to put that final nail in the coffin yet. Are there significant issues here? Yes. But again, smart people are overseeing billions and billions of dollars in investment in these companies, and some will make it.
Scott, there's an added complexity, a little different though than some of the previous challenges retail had. Number one is there's not only the economic pressures because of the amount of debt that they've built up over the past few years, but now you've got a health crisis which is going to adversely impact them, definitely for the short term, restricting consumers from going into retail locations. But secondly, in the long term, there's going to be a different relationship between that spray as you walk in, get your makeup done over here, try these on. That's just going to be a different experience for many shoppers.
Josh, you are 100% correct. And if I could, I would just offer a personal anecdote to the last recession. During the last recession, my household got $1,200 in stimulus. And we took that stimulus out and we bought a new washer and a new dryer and took it home. And that stimulus was designed to do exactly what it did. It got the Latham household out to buy new white goods. Now, you could give me $1,200. I'm not sure I'm leaving my home right now. And the adverse effect of that is if I take that $1,200 and spend it on Amazon, it really hurts the small business and the brick and mortar companies. So to your point, when I open up our discussion saying no one knows how this is going to materialize, it's that added complexity. It's the health concern. The health concern is somewhat rational, but like many of our relatives and friends and people we care about, there's a behavioral aspect of it that's really going to be tough for folks to overcome. How are you going to go into a clothing store and try on clothes? How are you going to go in a jewelry store and try on jewelry? that behavioral component of this recession is going to make it very, very difficult for retailers to plan. And then the other thing, phase one, phase two, phase three, very quickly. I think you're going to see regional fits and starts. You're going to see one region move forward, get to phase two, and then there's going to be an outbreak, and they're going to have to come back to phase one. That's going to make it even worse. So you are 100% correct in looking at the whole notion of health and the subsequent behavioral changes that we're going to see relative to the COVID recession and retail.
In 2019, a record number of retail stores closed, 8,000 or 9,000. Already this year, before the coronavirus hit, it was on a pace to exceed that. There's a cruelty to this virus for brick and mortar stores in which it has allowed Amazon to really, really build up momentum over the past few months, and especially add new customers. People who had never bought online, people who had only bought a few things online, are now using Amazon as a staple, as a source for all their staples. Does that give Amazon this huge head start in building momentum to the future?
It does. So data's a tricky. Amazon's a tricky company to look at because their number one competitive advantage is data. No one crunches data like Amazon. Every purchase we make, whether it be through Amazon or Whole Foods, they better leverage to understand our next purchase, not the one we made currently. And it's tough to compete with that. And now with the behavioral changes that are going to fuel and affect more purchases, and more importantly, the thing I would stress to your listening audience, data. That is why Amazon is such, I don't want to say dangerous, but they are clearly approaching a period where they're about to enter being a monopoly. And the amount of data they have relative to our customer attributes, our customer purchasing behavior, that's what concerns me the most as a professor.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, they know I'm out of dog food before I know I'm out of dog food. They know we need more Swifter pads before I do. How do brick and mortar companies who are already under tremendous financial distress, who aren't cool companies, able to tap into IT, to get AI going, to build up the information systems to be able to, I'm not going to say compete, I'm going to say survive.
I think the next year, maybe two, is survive. I think if I point to local businesses that have a chance, they have to leverage relationships. They really do. I'll make another statement here that it won't be controversial, but it illustrates the complexity and the ambiguity moving forward. I think, anecdotally, and I talk to a lot of businesses, I've talked to a lot of Chamber of Commerces recently over the past couple of weeks, all of them say the same thing. How can I help that small business? And I've been poring over the research data that I have. It really boils down to the relationship. And the statement that I would make that might be somewhat controversial, I think there's going to be a pent-up, not demand, I think there's going to be a pent-up level of contact that people will have. I see it again in my own sphere, my own family and friends. I don't know what you see, Josh. I think there's an opportunity for small businesses, if they can address the health concerns, to get people back into their stores and, again, leverage those relationships here locally. I know there's a couple down in Rhode Island. A few years back, I did a lot of research on Market Basket and the Market Basket strike when they were trying to take it through private equity. And the reason a company like Market Basket is so successful, they sell, food, milk, eggs, because they employ people for their life. You come in, you build relationships, their smiles make you happy, they go that extra yard for you. I think that's the aspect that small businesses have to focus on, is that relational aspect.
You've seen it with Stop and Shop, though. The move has been not for building the relationship so much. It's been much more to employing artificial intelligence, robots to identify spills and to do inventory. Will retailers, larger retailers, larger regional retailers, understand that personal touch is the way to win, or will they go to the software, the quick fix, the way to cut headcount and save money on personnel?
So I think it's going to bifurcate. So I think it's going to go two ways. I think you're going to have the small regional retailer that understands the value of the relationship, and then you're going to have the Amazons of the world, the Stop and Shops, the super huge conglomerates that go the way of technology, of the Internet of Things, of artificial intelligence, that are going to change the shopping experience. The caveat I would put in there, Josh, is it really is demographics. I have a saying I use in my graduate class: all strategy is demographics. So you and I, just looking at you, are probably in the same cohort, and we will continue to shop the way we have and the way our experience has just shaped us for the rest of our buying life. My 17-year-old son, his kids, even up to about 40, those people have no problem going into a store and not interacting with another human. There's nothing we can do to change it. All strategy is demographics. The same thing around buying a car. You look at a company like Carvana. People of that age cohort, they look very differently at the car buying purchase than you and I do. So I think the companies, the regional small business companies that understand the value of relationship will cater to you and myself. The ones that want to develop a Internet of Thing based store where you order something online, next thing you know it shows up at your doorstep, they will cater to the younger generations.
Your prediction, the next 6 months, what's the difference in the retail environment?
I think you will see the large dinosaurs that, to your point, JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, the J. Crews, they compete on cost and efficiency. They're going to continue to, go the way of the dinosaur. Small businesses, they've done surveys recently. It looks like, if you look at the survey data, the average small business owner thinks they can last maybe for 3 to 4 months, stretch it maybe to 6. I think further stimulus, I get concerned when I see the next round of stimulus going to individuals. You can make an argument that will trickle down to the stores, but if it trickles into the pockets of Amazon, that's not going to help the small business owner. And those are the folks that I think past that 3, 4, 6 month horizon, I get very, very concerned for. We don't want to define our communities by Amazon. We want communities that have a thriving small business core. I mean, I can bore you to death with my stats. The job creation with small businesses, the number of people they employ. If you want to talk about the notion of equity, female and underrepresented minority groups, they start small business at a much higher rate these days. So if we don't do things that are going to protect that small business core in communities like Providence, Lowell, Fall River, Worcester, Hartford, I think we will really, really regret 10 years from now when all we see is white Amazon trucks going up and down our roads. It's just not the way we want to go.
Listen, Professor Scott Latham, thank you so much. From UMass Lowell, leading expert on retail trends. Appreciate you taking the time. Please stay safe. For everybody else, 12 noon, Dr. Fine, former Director of Health, and 1 o'clock, Governor Raimondo. Thanks, everybody.